Hello, friends. Now, it can be good for both our physical and mental health to get out into the great outdoors. There's beauty in every country across the globe, but sometimes hikers can pay a steep price for a beautiful view, as we're about to learn. Some advice? Always hike with a partner, take a GPS tracker with you, and make sure you have adequate supplies. Tell someone where you're going, the route you're going to take, and when you should be back. Following just a few simple, common-sense guidelines like this can not only make your national park adventure go smoothly, it can also save your life. Perhaps the following true stories are cautionary tales, what not to do in a national park. But then again, sometimes it seems as if people go missing despite their best plans and intention. We present the following 10 mysterious national park disappearances. Number 10. Bryce Duffy. In February 2022, 22-year-old Bryce Duffy moved from Indianapolis to the city of Portage, Indiana, and was looking for work. Those who knew Bryce described him as a goofy, funny person who looked after his friends and family. Unfortunately, on that day, February 21st of 2020, the unthinkable happened while Bryce was out walking on the ice at West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park. Bryce, along with some friends, were walking across the ice when the ice gave way under his feet. Bryce, unfortunately, fell into the freezing waters below, and search and rescue teams are still desperately searching for him, although now it's search and recovery. Travis Waugh, who was with Bryce at the time, told Fox 32 Chicago, "We didn't know it was going to fall. We didn't even see the signs walking up. It was a mistake that happened, and we're heartbroken. I tried to grab him 9 or 10 times, but the waves were too strong. Every time I'd grab him, it just slammed right back into the wall. And by the time they got out here, he was already drifted away." Search and rescue teams, along with the police, were immediately dispatched to the area following the call. However, bad weather and rough conditions on the water made it almost impossible for them to look for Bryce. Recovery efforts have continued since February 21st, 2022, and now the Indiana Conservation Officers, Portage Fire Department, Porter Fire Department, Lake County Sheriff's Department, Ogden Dunes Fire Department, Indiana Dunes National Park Rangers, and the United States Coast Guard have all joined in the search for Bryce. For his family, all they want is to know what happened to their bright and happy Bryce. A GoFundMe was set up in the wake of the tragedy, and the fundraising goal was hit within a matter of days. This money will be used to help the family pay for expenses related to the search and for a funeral service in the future. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Bryce Duffy, you're asked to contact the Indiana Department of Natural Resources at 877-463-6367. Number 9. Peter Jackson. 74-year-old Peter Jackson last made contact with his son on September 17, 2016. According to reports, Peter told his son that he was on his way to the Yosemite National Park. There are very few details available in Peter's case, but we do know from a Yosemite National Park Facebook post that Peter was in both good physical condition and was known to do moderate to strenuous hikes around 5 miles in length. His family believed that he was likely headed into Yosemite for a day hike, but the direction of where he was headed is unknown. Shortly after he vanished, his disappearance was reported to the Yosemite Park Rangers and the local police. His car was discovered at the White Wolf campsite number 58 with a ticket that was paid up until September 21st of 2016. Unfortunately, there was no sign of Peter with his car, and multiple searches by land and air have turned up nothing. That was until 2019, when his royal blue outdoor products backpack was found by fellow hikers in the Ackerson Meadow, Aspen Valley area of the Yosemite National Park. A short summary of Peter's case was posted to the r/missing411 subreddit, and a user by the name of Velociraptor commented the following: "White Wolf is on top of the Thelma River, the top of a deep canyon. There's only one way down to the valley floor, or if you stay on the ridge, you could end up falling down the side and probably get stuck halfway down. It's not a sheer cliff, it is at some points, but for the most part, a person would have to have climbing ropes to scale down either way. This area is outside the normal/regular campsites and more for the introverted or leave-me-alone camper. By the way, as an experienced hiker, this is not a place to go hiking by yourself, he continues. Even if he slid down the slope and twisted his ankle, that would be it. Aside from the discovery of his backpack, there have been no further developments in the search for Peter. Peter Jackson last made contact with his family on September 17, 2016, and told them that he was headed to the Yosemite National Park. Peter is described as a white male, 5 foot 10 inches tall, 155 pounds, with blue eyes and gray hair. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the National Park Service tip line at 888-653-0009 or the Yosemite Dispatch at 209-379-1926 or 209-379-1992. Number 8. Walter H. Reinhardt. 66-year-old Walter Reinhardt mysteriously vanished from the Yosemite National Park on September 19, 2002, and hasn't been seen or heard from since. Walter had served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam and also worked as a sheriff's deputy in Virginia following his military service. Everyone who knew him said that he was very physically fit and was very capable in the great outdoors, making his disappearance all the more strange. His family noticed that it was very out of character for him to leave without making contact, so when he walked into the Yosemite National Park and never walked out again, they knew that something was terribly wrong. Walter's car was later found, with some reports stating it was discovered on September 30, 2002, while other reports stated October 2, 2002, at the White Wolf Trailhead. Authorities believe that that is where Walter was heading. In an article for the LA Times, it was disclosed that Walter had left his Swiss Army knife in his car. This article also details how Walter's credit card was last used on September 19, 2002, to purchase gas from a gas station just 15 miles from the White Wolf Trailhead. The last confirmed sighting of Walter is believed to have been at around 9 a.m. on September 19, 2002, by a park employee closing down a lodge in the White Wolf area of the park. According to the LA Times, he remembered a fellow with a German alpine hat asking directions that morning to a lake a few miles up the trail. Since then, there's been no sign of Walter Reinhardt, and multiple search efforts have turned up nothing. His family told investigators that Walter was extremely tough and was more than capable of making it in the rough terrain, even if he did like to hike alone. Authorities do not believe that Walter is a victim of foul play, and suspect that he either got lost or was injured during his hike. His sons say that he is in very good physical condition and has no medical conditions and doesn't take any medications. Walter is described as a white male with graying brown hair, 5 foot 8 inches tall and 145 pounds. He was possibly last seen wearing a gray felt alpine hat, leather hiking boots, and carrying a large fanny pack. Anyone with any information as to his whereabouts is asked to please contact the National Park Service at 888-653-0009 or the Yosemite National Park Communications Center at 209-379-1992. Number 7. Ruthanne Rupert. When 49-year-old Ruthanne Rupert attended the Yosemite Medical Clinic in Curry Village on August 14, 2000, no one had any idea that it would be the last time she would ever be seen alive. According to reports, Ruthanne had planned to go on a hike with a backpacking group. However, due to her medical incident, she was forced to postpone and seek treatment. After receiving the undisclosed treatment, it appears that Ruthanne set off on a day hike from Yosemite Falls to the Foresta area of the park. Her NamUs profile states, on August 14, she had stated that she planned to hike in to catch up to a backcountry hiking group, which had left that morning, but would turn around and exit the backcountry if she could not catch up to them by 4 p.m. The medical staff would be the last people to see Ruthanne alive, and after she failed to make it out of the park rangers and surrounding police forces were made aware of her disappearance. Ruthanne's disappearance is particularly strange due to the lack of details that are available, and it appears as if she walked into the Yosemite National Park and simply disappeared into thin air. Search and rescue crews have attempted to locate Ruthanne, but so far the search has been fruitless. The only clue in Ruthanne's case came in 2008 when her backpack was found in the Fireplace Creek drainage. This creek is along the route that Ruthanne would have taken to get to Foresta. However, nothing else has ever been found. Ruthanne Rupert is described as a white female with brown hair and brown eyes, standing 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighing about 140 pounds. Ruthanne has a prosthetic left eye and was believed to have been hiking from Yosemite Falls to Foresta on August 14, 2000. Anyone with information is asked to please contact the National Park Service at 888-653-0009. Number 6. Thelma Pauline Melton. The disappearance of Thelma Pauline Melton has continued to baffle investigators and online sleuths alike for many years. On September 25, 1981, Thelma, who was known to her friends as Polly, set off on a hike in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park with two of her female friends named Red and Trula. While Thelma lived in Jacksonville, Florida for most of the year with her husband Bob, the two also owned a trailer in the Deep Creek campground in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where they would stay for a few months of the year. These few months seemed to be Thelma's favorite, and she enjoyed bringing friends down and going for hikes on the easy trails, with the Deep Creek Canyon being her favorite. On September 25, 1981, Thelma and her friends set off down the trail at around 3 p.m., while Bob and the others stayed at the trailer. The trail was a nice, leisurely walk for the three companions, and they took it slow, as Thelma was known to be a slow walker. But about an hour into the walk, something changed. Thelma suddenly began to speed up and was quickly out of their sight. The path that Thelma had taken eventually led back to the campsite where her trailer was, so her friends just assumed that they would catch up with her there. However, when the two arrived at the trailer, Thelma was nowhere to be seen. Bob confirmed that Thelma hadn't made it back, and after searching the trailer and the trail that they had just walked, they called the police to report her missing. Thelma suffered from a range of medical conditions, and she did not like to hike alone, so her sudden disappearance worried her friends and husband. Park rangers and the police arrived at the trailer and began the search for Thelma, but as they made their way through the Deep Creek Trail, there was no sign of her. The tread on one of Thelma's shoes was very distinctive, and while park rangers were able to follow her movements for a short while, her tracks quickly became distorted and hidden amongst the foot traffic of other hikers. Bob and Thelma's friends scratched their heads, wondering why Thelma would all of a sudden take off after she had been taking the trail at a leisurely pace. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Thelma had been acting strangely in the days before her sudden disappearance. According to some sources, Thelma had not turned up at the center where she volunteered on September 25, 1981. She was a regular visitor to this center that provided hot meals to the elderly, and those at the center noted that it was very strange for Thelma not to show up. Investigators also discovered another clue when talking to the supervisor at the center where she volunteered. The supervisor revealed that on September 24th, Thelma had made a phone call to an unidentified person and that there were rumors that she might be having an affair. These rumors had never been substantiated, but some people theorized that the phone call placed by Thelma on the day before she disappeared has something to do with her disappearance. Did Thelma contact the man that she'd been having an affair with and come up with an elaborate plan to run away and start a new life? Now, there's been no evidence to back this theory up, but it is a very popular theory in Thelma's case. Wide-scale searches of the area have been conducted over the years, but no sign of Thelma has ever been found, and her case remains cold. Thelma Pauline Melton was last seen on September 25, 1981, on the Deep Creek Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. She is described as a white female with auburn hair, brown eyes, standing 5'11" and weighing about 170 pounds. Thelma suffers from high blood pressure and nausea and requires medication for these conditions. She is also known to smoke 2 packs of Virginia Slims a day. She was last seen wearing a pink and white striped sleeveless blouse, tan pants, a diamond-studded white gold wristwatch, a wedding band, size 8.5 tan low-cut shoes with crepe soles, and the sole of her left shoe had a crack across the ball of the foot, giving her prints a distinctive marking. Anyone with any information on Thelma is asked to contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 615-744-4647. 4000 or the National Park Service on 888-653-0009. Number 5. Joe Halper. 22-year-old Joe Halper was an accomplished and talented young man and was enrolled as a graduate student of astronomy at the University of Chicago in 1933. While not studying hard for his degree, Joe could not be found at the observatory where he worked in Wisconsin, and he also enjoyed math, chemistry, and chess. The world was truly his oyster, and for Joe, his life was just beginning. However, one hike would change all that, and 89 years later, his family are still searching for him. On August 15, 1933, Joe set off to begin his hike in the Rocky Mountains National Park near Taylor Peak. Joe and his friend, Joseph Garrick, had been camping in the park, and Joe was keen to get going on the hike near Taylor Peak. Joseph decided to stay at the campsite, leaving Joe to hike alone. The two said their goodbyes, not knowing it would be the last time that they would ever see each other. As the day passed and Joe still hadn't returned to the campsite, Joseph became more and more concerned for his friend's welfare. And by the end of the day, he reported him missing to the park rangers and local police department. Park rangers and the police began their search for Joe, but a large snowstorm hindered their efforts, and as the snow fell on the Rocky Mountains, the concern for Joe's welfare grew. Despite a number of searches, nothing was ever found of Joe, and the authorities determined that he had likely perished due to exposure. Joe's family have not given up looking for their loved one, and while now in 2022, authorities are not actively looking for him, a familial DNA sample has been obtained to aid in his identification should his remains be found. Following his disappearance, investigators began to receive several possible sightings of Joe in such faraway places as Phoenix, Arizona, Alliance, Nebraska, and Detroit, Michigan. None of these sightings have ever been confirmed, and it's likely they were just a case of mistaken identity. Joe Halper was last seen on August 15, 1933, and while almost 90 years has elapsed since his disappearance, his friends and family are determined to find the truth. Joe is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, 5 foot 8 inches tall, 165 pounds. His right eye is crossed, and there's also a scar above that eye. The Charlie Project notes that Joe may have used the alias Louis Hollenbuck, and that he was also fluent in French and German. He was last seen wearing a light blue or white shirt with blue stripes, light brown pants, and heavy shoes. He was also carrying an army knapsack. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the Colorado Bureau of Investigation at 303-239-5764 or the Glendale Police Department at 303-759-1511. Number 4. Stacy Aris. 14-year-old Stacy Ann Aris mysteriously vanished from the Yosemite National Park in July 1981 when she was visiting with her father and 6 others. On July 27, 1981, the group comprised of Stacy, her father, and 6 others rode in on horseback to the cabins at the Sunrise High Sierra Camp in the park. The views were spectacular, and everyone took a moment to take in the beauty around them before getting off their horses and heading to the cabins to freshen up. But Stacy didn't want to rest, however. Instead, she wanted to hike down to the lake armed with her camera to take some photos. Stacy asked her father to come with her, but he declined. According to newspaper reports and information released in a FOIA from the National Park Service, a 77-year-old man who was part of the group that Stacy and her father was traveling with offered to accompany her down the short trail. Those at the cabins watched as Stacy and the man walked down the hill and onto the trail toward the lake. Just short of the lake, the man stopped to take a rest, but Stacy carried on, determined to get pictures of the water. That was when Stacy disappeared behind some trees on her way to the lake. She was out of sight of everyone, and when 10 or so minutes had passed and she hadn't returned, they all rushed to look for her. The trail was only 1.5 miles long, and Stacy had been accompanied by an adult, so how could she have disappeared in such a short space of time? The Yosemite Park Rangers were alerted to Stacy's disappearance, and they quickly sprang into action, calling in the help of helicopters and search dogs, along with dozens of concerned volunteers who were at the camp. People searched tirelessly throughout the night and into the next day, with concerned volunteers putting their plans on hold to help Stacy's father look for her. The search and rescue effort was large, but unfortunately, Stacy has never been located. The only clue left behind was her camera lens cap that was found in the trees where she was last seen on the trail. Yosemite Park officials remember Stacy's case, and to those who are involved in the search efforts, they hope that one day her family will have closure. Stacy mysteriously disappeared while hiking to take pictures near the Sunrise High Sierra Camp on July 27, 1981. She is described as a white female with blonde hair, blue eyes, 5 foot 5 inches tall, and 120 pounds. Stacy wore narrow upper and lower dental retainers and also smoked cigarettes. She was last seen wearing an off-white hooded pullover windbreaker with a horizontal zipper front pouch above the breastline, a tight-fitting white jersey blouse with a square necklace edged with a 1/4 inch white lace, and pull-on shorts with vertical sky blue and maroon pinstripes. She was also wearing size 8.5 or size 9 gray hiking boots with rubber Vibram soles, a gold double-wrapped ankle bracelet, and possibly small studded earrings. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the National Park Service at 888-653-0009. Number 3, Samuel Bolke. 8-year-old Sammy Bolke, and his father, Kenneth, decided to enter the Crater Lake National Park together for a hike. Sammy was autistic and had aversions to bright lights and loud noises, and found that the great outdoors was the perfect place to relax and explore nature in peace. According to reports, Sammy was just like any other boy his age, enjoyed fishing and playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. On October 14, 2006, Sammy and Kenneth arrived at a pullout just short of the Cleetwood Cove parking lot in the Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. Kenneth had agreed to play hide-and-seek with Sammy, and this area was the perfect spot. The two ran around, tagging each other and hiding, but then Sammy got distracted by something in the distance on a cinder slope. Sammy had spotted and ran over to what he thought might have been gold, and excitedly ran over and started exploring the area. Meanwhile, Kenneth walked back to the car and instructed Sammy to come back so that the two could go to their cabin for the night as the sun was slowly starting to set. But Sammy refused, and he stood on the cinder slope looking down at his father. Kenneth tried to coax him down, but then quickly realized that Sammy might be wanting him to carry on the game of hide-and-seek from earlier. So, Kenneth rushed up the cinder slope and began running after Sammy. No matter how fast he ran, Sammy remained just ahead of him, and when he reached the top, he found that Sammy had disappeared. He called out for his son, but there was no sign of him. He called out for his son, but there was no answer and no sign of him. Sammy had run over the top and disappeared into the wilderness. Panicked, Kenneth alerted the authorities, and soon a large-scale search and rescue effort was underway. Volunteers, search dogs, helicopters, police, and park rangers all joined in the search for Sammy, but despite over 4,000 acres being combed, no sign of the little boy was ever found. Heat cameras are deployed in helicopters, but still no sign of Sammy. The search for Sammy has continued since 2006, and while his family held a memorial service for him, they're still fighting for answers. Sammy Bolke was last seen in the Crater Lake National Park on October 14, 2006. He is described as a white male with light brown hair, brown eyes. At the time of his disappearance was 4 foot 8 inches tall and weighed 85 pounds. Sammy had a mole under his right ear and a mole on the left side of his throat. He was last seen wearing a long-sleeved black and green striped shirt, cargo pants, red suede slip-on shoes with rubber soles, and a blue winter coat. Sammy has autism and is frightened by bright lights and loud noises. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the Klamath County Sheriff's Office at 541-883-7479 or the National Park Service at 888-653-0009. Number 2, Bruce Pike. 47-year-old Bruce Pike of Wyoming was last seen in the Yellowstone National Park on August 2, 2006. There are very few details about Bruce's disappearance, and all we know is that he was last seen at a campground on Indian Creek in the park and has never been seen or heard from again. His car was later found abandoned in the park, but specific details of where and the condition of the car have never been released. Bruce Pike is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, 5'11" and 185 pounds. There are no details about the clothing he was possibly wearing when he disappeared. and there are incredibly few details about Bruce as a person. The Charlie Project notes that Texas authorities are involved in the investigation, but again, further information in regards to this has not been released. Anyone with information about Bruce Pike's whereabouts is asked to please contact the National Park Service at 888-653-0009 or the Texas Department of Public Safety at 800-346-3234. And number 1, Rann Nadjian. Armenian Brit Rann Nadjian was taking a well-earned holiday to the United States in July of 1972. Rann was a medical student at the esteemed Cambridge University, and after the stress of studying and exams, he needed a holiday to help him blow off some steam. So, he packed his bags and headed for the United States to explore what the U.S. had to offer. He planned to travel to several places in the U.S., including Florida, but Florida would have to wait until he had finished his trip to the infamous Yosemite National Park in California. On July 24th, 1972, Rann entered the Yosemite National Park, taking in its beauty and getting ready to brag about the sights to his friend back home in England. Unfortunately, this trip to Yosemite would be his last, and after asking an attendant how to get to Half Dome, Rann has never been seen or heard from again. There are few details in the case, and the authorities presume that he either got lost or became injured during his hike. After Rann was reported missing, search and rescue crews scoured the area but found no sign of the Armenian Brit. There have been no personal belongings and no clues found to help investigators figure out what happened to Rann, and his case has since gone cold. Rann Nadjian, also known as Dick to his friends, is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, 5'6" to 5'11", and 150 to 182 pounds. He has a dark mole on the back of his right hand and speaks with a very thick British accent, although the specific accent isn't listed, as the UK has many distinctive accents. He was last seen wearing a red, white, and blue short-sleeve polo shirt with the word VOTE on it, light blue bell-bottoms, desert boots with beige canvas tops, a black belt, an orange Omega Seamaster watch, and large mod-style sunglasses. Rann was also carrying his 35mm Pentax camera with a zoom lens and a strap. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the Yosemite National Park Service at 209-379-1992. Well, folks, there you have it. 10 more unsolved national park mysteries. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. Meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. As for me, I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.